Well, now to New South Wales, and residents of Wagga Wagga in the south of the state are starting to count the cost of flood damage as water levels slowly recede. The flood peak is now moving towards the town of Narrandera on the Murrumbidgee River, which is rising faster than expected, as reporter George Roberts explains.
Well, here at Wagga, the river has dropped quite quickly, and as a result, that water is now rushing downstream, and that's what's causing that peak at Narrandera. So it's peaking today at much higher than expected and much quicker than expected. So it's expected to hit about 9 metres, and that's equivalent to the 1974 flood. So for the people of Narrandera, that makes this a 1 in 40-year flood, and as a result, the SES is ordering evacuations in Narrandera today, and they'll obviously be inspecting that levee to see whether that will hold and how much of the levee will be breached by the water that's heading downstream. From there it'll head on to the other Murrumbidgee communities such as Leeton and Hay, which are even further downstream.
So what is the situation in Griffith and in Forbes?
Well, in Griffith, that's serviced by this sort of network of canals that run the irrigation for all the crops around there, and they've been overloaded with water from the heavy downfalls that they've had over the past couple of weeks, and also the massive amounts of water that are coming out of the river system and into those canals. That's all moving across the land, and it's effectively unpredictable. It's not like a normal river that you can say, well, you know, we have a gauge on this, we know how high it is and where it's heading. This water's heading in all different directions, and we've seen sort of creeks and new rivers sort of starting across the landscape. So it's a bit unpredictable, but there are still evacuations in place. There are still a number of communities there that are still under evacuation order, and while they're trying to go back in and assess the damage and clean up businesses and homes, there's no word yet on when they can move back in or how much further it will be, the flooding will be in that area. For Forbes, the river's static at about 10.5 metres, but there's a possibility of there being more flooding there or it even rising again. So that's a bit of uncertainty there for the town of Forbes, which is also cut into 3 by the flooding on the Lachlan River.
As you said, you're in Wagga. How are people in the region coping as the water levels slowly recede and the extent of the damage is revealed?
Well, the people that we spoke to yesterday from Griffith and some of the areas around here have said that it's just simply devastating. They weren't expecting the flood to come up this high, and the people who've lost their businesses and homes, that's been really hard to deal with. For the people of North Wagga, they've been out of their homes for nearly a week. It's been completely underwater. That's just over the river back here. Now, it's expected that the Army will be able to go in there today and start the cleanup, but there's still no word on when the hundreds of people from the homes over there will be able to get back in and get life back to normal. And that's the same for about 1,000 residents around this region who've been out of their homes for about a week.
George, thank you.
Thanks, Roz.